Commence primary ignition.
Hey fans and collectors, I'm very excited because today we're taking a look at the Remnant Stormtrooper, which is number 165 in the Vintage Collection and part of the Mandalorian show on Disney+. Let's dive on in. Here we have the front of the box of the Remnant Stormtrooper from the Vintage Collection. And to start off, we have the piping along the outside, which lets us know it's a Vintage Collection. We have the Kenner logo on the bottom. We have the Star Wars logo with the Mandalorian under it. And I've said this before, I just really enjoy seeing the Mandalorian text under that Star Wars logo, and just particularly in the Vintage Collection, just style, but just the text, the way it fits, it just looks really, really nice. But I've just really enjoyed every collectible and every figure they've offered because it makes me remember how great the show was. We have the legalese at the top. The screen grab is directly from the episode, and it's a really poignant scene when I think it's like the first episode when he's meeting and getting the contract for the first time for the asset. Let's turn the box around, let's see. Here we have the back of the box, and it starts off with the rest of the figures in the Vintage Collection line. So it starts off with the Mandalorian, then we have Cara Dune, then the Remnant Stormtrooper and the Clone Trooper. And I already have reviews of Cara Dune up, and the Clone Trooper up, you should check those out. And I'll be doing a review of the Mandalorian shortly. The start of this year's line is such a great example of what a success the Mandalorian was. I mean, we have the Clone Trooper that's a reprint, but 3 out of the 4 new figures for the start of this year all come from the Mandalorian. And they sold out in pre-order almost immediately. You're able to find them on shelves, actually. I found this Cara Dune on shelf, so they're out there, but these are immediate off the bat fan favorites, and it's so great to see that dedication in the toys also. The rest of the back here, we have the Disney and Hasbro logos in the bottom corner. We have the Vintage Collection logo in the center, the Star Wars at the top with the double silver piping around the rest of the figures. We have the number of the figures, so this is 165 in the Vintage Collection. And the rest is legal nonsense, but pretty minimalistic and attractive back. That's why I really like the Vintage Collection. Their retro styling and beauty of simplicity. Here's our Remnant Stormtrooper out of the box. First impressions are just how attractive and how different the paint scheme and the coloration of his armor is. And one of my favorite parts of The Mandalorian and the old legacy post-Empire days is just the fracturing of the Empire and how it evolved and how it flowed, and how people who were higher ups in the Empire, how they dealt with the Emperor being gone and the Empire kind of dissolving. The Stormtrooper is such an iconic foot soldier of the Imperial Army, and that being said, they are symbolic as the Empire ages and fades away, and this armor, the white armor, is even more symbolic of them and themselves. And so the idea of their armor being faded and the paint on it being chipped is just beautifully symbolic with how the Empire at this time was itself chipping and fracturing away. So the Stormtrooper model that was used is not a new model for the Vintage Collection. I believe it is the definitive Stormtrooper model that was in previous year's Vintage Collection attached to the Rogue One title. So we had a newer Stormtrooper print, and it was beautiful. So I'm glad that they improved upon the already impressive Stormtrooper design that they came out with last year. Here we're going to talk some articulation for the Remnant Stormtrooper. And so, as with most Vintage Collection figures, they do have a pretty advanced set of articulation. They have knees that turn. They also obviously have jointed knees. Now it's a little bit stiff because it's brand new, which I love, but you can ease them into motion. They also have ball joint and swivel feet. So there's not a lot of motion because of the ankle armor, but there's actually a very surprising amount of motion. An impressive amount of motion in their ankles. And with these new Stormtrooper models and the ankles and the knees that swivel and go all the way down, you also do have a joint in the thigh, so you can turn their armor out a little bit, and you can get kind of them down on their knees, taking a fighting stance, a shooting stance, which is a really, really cool addition with these new Stormtrooper models. So the knees and the thighs turn. The legs do as well. We can pull him into a seating position here by just twisting some of the legs a little bit. We also have a pretty advanced hip joint here, so he can be turned over, he can lean back, he can lean forward. It's actually one of the better hip joints. The newer Vintage Collection figures come with some of the better hip joints. They really resemble the Black Series figures in their posability. Moving on up to his arms. I'll put him here at the Vitruvian Man stance. Moving up to his arms, he has elbow joints, which are actually bent pretty nicely around his armor. Now, the armor plating is pretty well formed to his body in this model, so he is able to bring his hand up pretty close to his helmet there. You know, he can't really touch his helmet exactly, but he probably could. Yeah, he could. So again, he can pretty much do the Macarena. He's got that much maneuverability in this figure. His right finger has the trigger finger, but his left finger you can also pose his gun in. His head, he's able to turn it. Pretty remarkable turnability. He can turn it all the way around in Exorcist if he really wants to, but very nice posability. The Remnant Stormtrooper comes with one accessory, which is the Stormtrooper's famed weapon, the E11, but actually it's different. So I would have been just as happy if they stamped the beautifully well-painted E11 that came with the Han Solo Stormtrooper or the Rogue One Stormtrooper from the previous year. But this model E11 is actually unique and different. Hasbro actually was classy enough to give us an entirely new model of the E11 for this Remnant Stormtrooper. Now, if you haven't seen the Mandalorian show yet, go watch it. What are you doing? Stop whatever you're doing right now. Finish this video, drop a like, but then go watch the Mandalorian as soon as you can. But in one of the scenes, one of the really pivotal scenes in the show, these Stormtroopers are seen hunting the protagonist in a dark room with their illuminated E11s. And they have a flashlight in the front of it in this scene. And it's something that we knew the E11 obviously had a light somewhere, but we hadn't actually seen a close HD model of that. And it's really, really cool that they decided not only to put that in the show, the realism, but to also have that follow through on the figure. Just a close-up of the paint. He's just really well done, and even down, I wanted to do a close-up of this because I didn't recognize the detail, but his lenses in his helmet are even painted to look like they're weathered in different sides. So if you can see in his right eye, he's got like a little bit of a different fuzz, haze, or chip to it, whereas his left eye here is like perfect Stormtrooper lens. So you can get these guys online. The pre-orders flew off the shelves. I'll try to leave a link below with some places where you can still pre-order them. These are also lined up with hitting shelves at the same time as some of the Cara Dune, Mandalorian, Clone Trooper, some of the other figures in his wave. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I inspired you to go out and get your own Remnant Stormtrooper yourself, or to at least sit down and finally watch The Mandalorian. Subscribe for more of the best toy news. Drop a like below. It really supports the channel. And once again, thanks for watching. Follow and connect with me on Instagram at Binary Sunset Review for more toy sightings and reviews.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.